Whispers float in empty halls. Footsteps echo down the walls. Shadows break where secrets lie. Every echo holds a hidden sign. Blow the trace along the crime, a hush that haunts the night, a fear that lives in light. Unravel lines of twisted lies. In the dark, the story waits unseen.
And here we go.
Hey guys, welcome back. So I'm just gonna do a really quick video today for Nolan again, just the astrology to sort of validate the reading. And so if you haven't seen the reading, it was a channeling that I did, and the more that I've thought about it, the more I kind of realized what I feel had happened. But first of all, if you would like to support the channel, all the ways to do so are below or in the Linktree. There are new offerings on my website. There's a baby prediction that I've now added, and spiritual coaching, and I also added another day and some more time back. So if you're interested in that, or you can also check out my store, pharaohcelestial.shop. I'm gonna actually be opening up probably a little merch shop for here with not so many things, but just a few things to choose from if you guys are interested in that as well. And for the next I don't know, probably till tomorrow, I'll be offering buy 2 questions get 1 free. So those are all the things I'm offering. All those things help support the channel and help me to continue to do investigations. Any donations are also appreciated, as we still got a lot to catch up on after everything that's happened this year. But again, there is no obligation, as you know. Free support is just as appreciated. So I just appreciate your time and energy of watching and being here and being a part of the community. Okay, so I'm not an astrologist. All right, I'm not an astrologist. I am learning as well, but I do get help with it. So I do have my things written down here. I'm gonna pull up the chart. You probably won't understand it. I just need you to listen to what's being said. I dumbed it down a lot. It's dumbed down a lot. So, because I know astrology is a little bit harder to understand. Now, from my understanding from the channeling, what I feel happened is that there was some sort of altercation that caused an accident. And in the end, Nolan was no longer alive. Nolan was, then it was covered up. Okay. I said what I said in my reading. I just wanted to put those pieces together because I don't know if people kind of understood it, because it took me a little bit to think about and understand what was going on, and then look at the astrology and try to put my channeling together. And because everything was intertwined, everything was a little confusing. And so what was intertwined was, and this is all alleged, what was intertwined was that there was some sort of altercation, some words were exchanged, something happened on the boat, and whatever the altercation was is what caused the boat to get into an accident and take on water or whatever was going on with it. I think the boat was actually messed up and it was probably covered up, and that's why the tow was canceled. But it was an altercation, in my opinion, that caused the accident. So it's all intertwined. Then they kind of rolled him overboard and left off. Okay, he was not in a fucking island. Sorry, he was on the boat, allegedly. That's why they had his phone. And I didn't find out they had his phone until afterwards. So it makes complete sense with what I got. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the astrology. Astrology is just astrology. It's no guilt. Also, I did find out who Ashley is. And it's interesting because it is coming up in the astrology as somebody, starts with a W, his mother, that is a judge. And so that's all I'm going to say. Especially because of the profession she's in. Again, all alleged, entertainment purposes only. Just trying to be Nolan's voice, just trying to say what I feel came through and what the astrology points to. Okay. Okay, so this is a Placidus chart. Sometimes they use Placidus, sometimes they use whole sign. So we have the first house as ascendant is Sagittarius. So this is movement, travel, escape. He was not stationary. Sagittarius is the seeker, the traveler, the one who goes towards something. This is not a staying behind signature. This is a journey. You have the 4th house down here, moon, I see, in Pisces. It's emotional truth, hidden, water, and the end of the matter. The IC in Pisces is the foundation, the gray of the buried truth, and the true node in Pisces is the destiny of the chart is tied to water and secrecy. This says that the truth is underwater, literally and metaphorically. He was in near water at the end, which we know he was in. So we have the 7th house over here. You have Mars and Uranus and Gemini. Okay. Mars is action, violence, and force. Uranus is shock, sudden, unexpected. Gemini is words, communication, dualities. This is about a sudden violent altercation involving words, struggle, and possibly a small craft. Gemini equals boats, cars, and vehicles. And this is not an accident. This is a conflict. But I mean, a conflict that turned into an accident. It wasn't planned or anything like that. Uranus is something that's unexpected. Okay. And it's kind of like a lightning strike. Like it just happens. You see this a lot of accident charts. So you have the 5th house with Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. Okay, so Saturn is restriction, delay, and injury. Neptune is fog, confusion, deception, and Aries is sudden force impact with the head and neck. This says that he was injured, likely a blow to the head or neck, and the truth about the injury is being obscured. This is a cover-up signature. Okay, then we have the 8th house of Sun and Mercury and Jupiter and Cancer. Sun is the identity, core, and vitality. Mercury is communication, messages, phone. Jupiter is expansion, benefit, protection, and Cancer is family, nurturing, home. This is the core of this event is tied to secrets, death, and family protection. Someone with influence, Jupiter, is involved in managing the narrative, likely a maternal or family figure. And so then we have ninth house, Venus and Leo. Venus is female, values, relationships. Leo is public, visible, dramatic. 9th house is law, travel, foreign places. This is a female authority figure, a judge, lawyer, or legal professional is connected to the case. She is visible and influential. We have the 10th house, MC Virgo. MC is a public image, narrative, and authority. Virgo, details, service, health, and investigation. This is the public story is being managed carefully with attention to detail. This is constructed narrative, not an organic one. 3rd house, Pluto in Aquarius. Down here, Pluto equals power, control, transformation. Aquarius, groups, technology, rebellion, and 3rd house is communication, phones, and local travel. The cover-up is organized. A group of people, kids, are protecting themselves. The phone technology is central to the deception. This is a network of silence. So the full timeline is, the group according to the event chart. Group trip, short boat ride, ASC Sagittarius, 3rd house Pluto. Argument or verbal conflict, Mars and Uranus and Gemini in the 7th. Physical struggle, Mars equals force, Uranus and shock. 4th, he falls backwards, head neck injury, Saturn and Neptune, Aries in the 5th. Boat, hits something or takes on water, Moon plus IC plus true node in Pisces. 6, he goes overboard or is rolled or pushed, Moon in Pisces, Neptune in Aries. Burn on the leg, Mars and Gemini, heat, mechanical. So this could happen when the crash happened or he was rolled over. Panic, Moon in Pisces, emotional overwhelm. Cover-up begins, Neptune in Aries, 5th, Pluto in Aquarius in the 3rd. Female legal authority involved, Venus and Leo, 9th, MC in Virgo. Group protects itself, Pluto in Aquarius, 3rd, Jupiter in Cancer. This chart, he was on the water, not on an effing island. Sorry. But I've had a lot of comments say that, and all I know is what I felt. I felt like I was physically on the boat. I'm giving you what Nolan gave me, okay? And you got to remember, everybody's lying. So there was an altercation, sudden violent, involving words and a struggle. He was injured, his head and neck, and possibly burned when everything was going on. The boat took on water. He was rolled overboard. Panic followed. A cover-up was enacted. Organized group protective involving a female legal authority. The public narrative is managed. The phone is the key. The truth is buried, and the chart shows exactly where to look. They want you to believe that an 8-year-old stayed on an island without his phone. The chart says otherwise. It says water, altercation, injury, cover-up, and a group of people who decided to protect themselves instead of telling the truth. Ask them, where does the chart say an island? It doesn't show where it says that he was alone, because it doesn't show where it says that he was drowning or he drowned, because it doesn't. It says boat, it says struggle, it says cover up, and it says the truth is still underwater waiting for someone to look. So that is my interpretation of the chart, with a little bit of help, as I always get, because I'm not an astrologer. I'm still learning. Astrology takes a long time. And so, just to remind you guys, we have Mars here, that is conflict, confrontation, physical action, injury, impulsive action. Uranus is a sudden event, a disruption, a shock, an accident, something happens unexpectedly. Gemini, duality, multiplicity, communication, movement, more than one perspective, person, or theme. So you have Mars, Uranus, Gemini in the 7th. Is a hell of a strange signature to casually summarize an 18-year-old sitting peacefully on an island alone. And I did this at 6 o'clock because everybody was saying it's on an island at 6. He gave me 6. So that's what I used. And as it's showing, this is what's happened at 6 o'clock, allegedly. There's the boat water question, because the chart doesn't read like a static isolation. So, it's more like traveling and being on a boat and being out on the water than sitting on an island. And Nolan has Mars, Uranus, and Gemini. So Gemini is mutable, Uranus is disruptive, and Mars acts. So he wasn't stationary. So there's nothing in this chart, again, that puts him stationary at all. And also Gemini is mutable, so it's mobile, it's changeable, it's back and forth. This is basically saying something disruptive happened on a boat. Because Gemini, again, rules that type of energy. It rules boats, it rules movement, it rules duality. And then you have the Mars and Uranus, something that is shock, unexpected, happening on the boat in the 7th house of the others, okay? You wouldn't have anything really there if there wasn't another, right? And they're conjunct. And when Mars and Uranus are sitting together in the 7th, that's the most explosive conjunction occurs. In the house of the other, the counterpart, and the direct interaction opposition of another party. So, does the central action signature emphasize isolation or interaction with another? And it chooses, it looks like interaction. And there, again, is another subtle point. Gemini itself is dual-bodied. So traditionally, astrology, classifies it among the double-bodied signs. That doesn't mean exactly 2 people, but it does add a multiplicity of interaction, not single isolation. So there's a strong movement in this chart. And the Mars is conjunct Uranus within 1/2 degree is one of the least everything proceeds normally signatures imaginable. So you have a rapid action, sudden interruption, unexpected physical development, impulsive action, abrupt change of course, accident disruption potential, and conflict that escalates unexpectedly. And that is what Mars and Uranus is textbook for, especially in this conjunction, in this spot of the chart. So it wasn't planned. This was sudden and unexpected with Uranus there. Sudden, unexpected disruption. So, there was some kind of altercation, something was said, and that caused the accident. That caused altercation. Altercation caused the accident. That's what I was getting at in the reading, the best way that I could when I was trying to understand it at the time. Sagittarius rising in the 4th Pisces. So, for land, end of matter, environment, 4th Pisces, traditional ruler is Jupiter, modern co-ruler is Neptune. So the water symbolism enters the chart through the actual location house, not because we're trying to find the water because we were being told he was around an island, but because Pisces gives you water, shoreline, sea, submerged, wet environment, channels, places surrounded or penetrated by water, unclear boundaries. And that's basically where he was found. But then again, this is not a stationary chart, so he was on the boat. There's nothing on here that is pointing to him being stationary on an island alone. And that was the biggest reason I wanted to do this chart, because everybody's like, oh, he was on an island. No, he wasn't. But if you follow the rulers, so the water environment is independently strong. But if you take Neptune, is around early Aries, and then Jupiter is newly in Leo. So neither is a water sign, but it's not deep, static, submerged. So the environment is watery, but the action and actions are not stationary water symbolism. And so for short transportation, you examine the third house, but you have the Sagittarius rising in the third Aquarius. Its traditional ruler is Saturn, modern is Uranus. And where is the modern ruler of Uranus? Gemini in the 7th house conjunct Mars. So the modern ruler of transport and movement is sitting in the other party's house joined by Mars. Traditional ruler Saturn is in Aries, adding another active fire quality. So, short distance transportation movement is connected with sudden physical action, disruption, and interaction with another party. Again, something happened with somebody else. There was an altercation. The boat crashed. In the end, Nolan was no longer. So you have, once the fourth environment gives us the Pisces water, the combination becomes transport movement, watery environment, other party interaction, and sudden disruption. And this chart is absolutely compatible with watercraft boat movement as a possible manifestation. Person involved in movement activity around watery environment with another party component, not being alone on an island, because it's not even close to a quiet alone island reading. You would have more like fixed signs. And again, you have Mars and Uranus in a mutable Gemini of 7th. That's basically the opposite of being stationary. And when I was saying, did they hit a rock or a sandbar? Yeah, they hit something, I think. I really think there ended up being a hole or something in the boat that caused them to gain water. And then whenever he either fell and hit, that's why I was wondering where the engine was, because I was wondering like where he got the burn at. Did he get it when, is the engine on the boat, or is it underneath? Did he get it when they rolled him off and his leg hit the boat, depending on where the engine is, or did he get it when he fell? It's in the midst of everything that happened that his leg hit that hot engine, or the hot, whatever part of the boat from being driven. So you have the 8th, the accident, altercation. This one is better than, again, being stuck on an island. We have the 7th, interaction, other party. You have Mars, physical conflict, altercation. Then you have Uranus, abrupt disruption, accident, and shock in the mutable sign of rapid, changeable, moving situation. So basically an interaction occurs, something suddenly goes wrong, and subsequent situation changes rapidly. So this chart, okay, you have movement, yes, it's strong. You have a water environment, yes, via Pisces in the 4th. Other party interaction, very strong in the 7th. You have sudden disruption, accident, symbolism, very strong, Mars and Uranus. You have a transport connected to disruption in other party. Yes, you have a boat specifically. The 6 p.m. produces an unusually concentrated Mars-Uranus 7th house configuration. So he wasn't on an island at 6 o'clock. This was all going on. That's just the story that was derived. And so you have Jupiter right there in the 8th, right? So you have Jupiter can signify law, judges, courts, authority, status, protection, and influential people. Then you have Venus can signify a woman or feminine figure, relationships, social alliances, diplomacy, and benefits, favor. The 8th brings shared resources, other people's money's assets, death, crisis, secrets, consequences, inheritances, and what is owed to others. So you could have Jupiter Venus could describe a female in law, and then but you also, so the Jupiter and Venus in the 8th is what happens afterward around consequences, shared interests and resources, protection, alliances, crisis and death, and what other people stand to lose. Oh, and something also is Mercury was retrograde, so that's relevant to this as well. So Mercury retrograde is accounts being revisited, information changing, and honestly, him and Nolan both have Mercury retrograde in their chart. This is having to go backward through the timeline, contradiction, something requiring reconstruction, and later reconsideration of what was originally said and reported. But you combine also the Mercury RX with a strong hidden house, Neptune, Pluto symbolism, and then we have something considerably, what story gets told afterward. And Nolan himself was actually born during Mercury retrograde, and so was I. It adds another layer as to why Mercury keeps turning up around his story. Also, you have a lot below on the astrology chart. So that means a lot is hidden. You don't have very much above that line. So things that are below is everything that is hidden, and things that are above are things that are out in the open. You don't have a lot. You have a lot that's being hidden here. So below the horizon, you have a lot of action below the horizon at 6 o'clock. And so again, that's private, subjective, non-public, behind the scenes event, rather than what is open, visibly, and publicly known. So you want to take that into consideration as well. Then you have the Venus and Jupiter in the 8th after the Mars and Uranus conjunction in Gemini in the 7th. So you have another party interaction, sudden physical disruption. Then you have Venus and Jupiter in the 8th, which is relationships, allies, protection, status, law. Themes entering the house of crisis, consequences, shared stakes, death, and what other people stand to lose. The second part is where the self-preservation language can become interesting of what Nolan had said. So Jupiter and Venus in the 8th is absolutely compatible with people with social, legal status, resources becoming relevant to managing consequences. So Jupiter, law, judiciary, protection, Venus, woman, alliance, social connection, and crisis, consequences, shared stakes in the 8th house. And also Nolan's event, Mercury is retrograde. So again, that is good symbolism for accounts revisited, timeline reconstruction, statements reconsidered, information requiring reexamination. So does this chart prove like a deliberate cover-up? It does prove self-preservation after an unexpected event. Because the Mars-Uranus screams like sudden, unplanned, much more than carefully orchestrated. So again, they didn't plan this. It's not like they called them to the island and they planned to do this. It's just something that happened. Something changes abruptly during an interaction, creating consequences and stakes that have to be dealt with privately. So it's not planned from the beginning. And then you have the strongest sudden physical disruption involving the other party's signature is ultimately reports to Mercury retrograde. So that's a way of showing why the account timeline story of the interaction becomes something that has to be gone back over. And again, interestingly enough, him and Noah are very similar. And Noah has a lot more retrograde planets than he does, but yeah, they both have Mercury retrograde. And there's a lot of similarities between him and Nolan, in my opinion. As far as the story, the timeline, all of that kind of stuff, it's very similar. So that's that. I think I've kind of basically gone over the biggest parts of the chart. I'm sure that there's more for people that are more better at astrology and all of that. But I hope that I've kind of explained this, in a way that you can understand it. Because I like to use astrology as a validation, and I like to use cards as a validation, even though I already kind of know what what happened, because what I was shown, I like to use this to kind of be just like, okay, no, you guys, he wasn't on an island by himself. This is what happened. And it just kind of validates Nolan's voice, because for some reason people don't want to just believe what Nolan has to say or what's channeled, even though. So I like to use multiple things to validate what I'm getting. So I hope that this was helpful in kind of understanding it a little bit. I mean, it might be a little bit repetitive, but I kind of just want to like explain the best way I can, kind of dumb it down for people that don't know a lot about astrology and all of that. And so that's why I try to explain it the way that I explain it. So, and I have my notes written here because I don't remember it all. But all right, until next time.